Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another installment of Diamond G Speaks. I'm your host, Diamond G, coming at you live and direct from sunny Central Florida. It's beautiful out here, y'all. Nice breeze, Yeah, it's just great. Today's topic, is going to be about the problems within the so-called black community. Specifically, we're going to talk about the issues having to do with blood relations, and how for some reason Negroes, American Negroes, and so-called blacks seem to have it in their minds that when a person who happens to be related to them commits a crime or does some sort of vile act that violates, their sovereignty, and their right to exist, for some reason they have a hard time cutting them loose. Saying, hey, you know what? You're a bad person. Get out of here. Let me remove this person from my circle in order for me to be successful. And we're going to talk about that at length. And I would like to point out, though, that, for those of you who are saying, this is not just a problem in the so-called black community, and why are they being singled out? Here's the deal. It is a problem that goes in all communities. Caucasian communities, Latin American, Hispanic communities, African communities. But here in this country, in the United States of America, it is magnified and it's more of an issue in the so-called black community. Okay, and it leads to basically counterproductive dialogue. It also leads to a destruction of prosperity, and it also degrades the actual social wealth, that's not social wealth, but we'll say the social worth, and the potential wealth of the so-called black American in this country. Okay, now let's just jump right on into it. You hear a lot of times people refer to, they'll be like, oh man, my homeboy, this is my brother, and my brother, he stole from me, he stole my car and he wrecked it, but I'm not going to call the cops on him because we're bigger than that. That's interesting. Now, as a grown individual, your car gets stolen, your brother wrecks your car, stole your car and wrecked it. Now your family is without. So now you're going to let your children, your wife, your life is in trouble. Now you may lose your job. Okay? And for what? Just for the sake that someone is related to you? Again, this is the problem with the American Negro and the so-called black in the United States of America. There was a time, when respect was earned. Just simply because you were born related to another individual, that did not give you automatic green light or free pass to do wrong. If anything, that bond should be stronger. But what happens is that these individuals, instead of them saying, you know what, this is my relative, I don't want to jam them up, I don't want to put their family in a bad situation, they're so in love with the concept of American Negro culture that their bottom line is they want to kick your back in, steal from you, cheat, do whatever they can for instant self-gratification. And the only time they will pull the blood family card is when you tell them, hey, you know what, I'm gonna have to contact the authorities on you. Okay, that's a problem. All right. Now that is something that we as a culture and we as a society really need to deal with. Okay. Now, in the so-called black community, this is magnified because it's very prevalent. And what I would say is that it sets a very bad example for those to come after you. All right, so let's stick with that analogy of the guy who steals his brother's car. Right now, if this guy has children, not the thief, the victim in this situation, what are your children learning? Your children are learning that there's no, when the rules, there are rules out there, but the rules don't apply to everybody. So you can harm your own family member without repercussions or without the law being applied. Think about that. Okay? Because that's what it's teaching people. You're not doing anybody any favors, you know, by letting a relative get away with doing something. You're not doing nobody no favors. The same thing goes when you talk about, especially within the so-called black community, there's also the issue, of incest, and molestation. Again, this is not just something that is specifically within the black community. It happens everywhere, but we're talking about what goes on in the black community. Okay? And there seems to be this big concept where, people want to keep stuff a secret. You know what I'm saying? So they may say, oh, Uncle Billy, he touched little Sarah, he touched little Jessica, but don't tell nobody, because his, grandmama might get all upset or might get jammed up. Like, what the hell is that? Okay, so again, what are you doing? Number one, by not saying nothing about that type of situation, right? You've allowed this criminal and this scumbag to continue to do this stuff for years to come. You've affected the children who have already had it happen to them, and then in addition to that, you're going to affect the future generations. Okay, and this again is part of Willie Lynch syndrome. Okay, of self-hatred. You know what I'm saying, and self-mutilation as a people, okay? By keeping your mouth shut, okay, and not challenging these individuals simply on a quote-unquote blood code, you are your own worst enemy. You will never succeed. You will never go anywhere, okay? Because you yourself have refused to do the right thing, okay, and seize the opportunities that are in front of you, okay? And what you will also notice is that the people who are most vocal in these situations, okay, are usually the same people who have been perpetrating this stuff on others. They'll come out their mouth and say something like, oh, the white man did this and the white man did that. I can't get a job because the white man don't want me working. This, that. No, my man, it's you. You know what I'm saying? My lady, it's you. You know what I'm saying? That's what it is. You created these situations, and yet you still feel that there is, something that you're entitled to something. Okay, that's an American Negro concept and ideal. Okay, let's go a step further here. Now, we live in a society where so many of these American Negroes, they just find that there's such a great thing placed on material wealth. And the shame of it all, is just disgusting on so many different levels. Okay, so what we want to talk about is how they come about the idea that they are entitled to something when they've wasted and blown their own opportunities. Okay, let's talk about that. Okay, let's talk about that. In those situations, take care now. In those type of situations, okay, what has happened is that these people look around and they see what you got. They say, you got this, you got that. Man, wow, damn, I'm jealous. We call them haters, right? You call them haters. But it's bigger than that, okay? It's a concept of the do-nothing American Negro attitude, and you come from nothing, so you have nothing, therefore you can be nothing. So what you want to do, you want to covet thy neighbor's things. You know what I'm saying? You may have a person who wants your wife. You may have a person who wants your job, who wants your car, wants your children, wants your life, instead of going and getting their own. That's a huge problem, right? We've all come across them. The so-called family member that don't never call you unless they want something. You know what I'm saying? The so-called family member that you don't hear from ever. And then every once in a blue moon, they call you up and the conversation always starts like this. Hey, how you doing? How you been? Hey, man, I'm having a hard time over here. Can you help me out? How many of y'all done had that conversation? Go ahead, raise your hand up. Yeah, okay. Now, we as a people, 9 times out of 10, when you were coming up, if you were brought up in the so-called black community, you were taught, oh, well, you got to give back. You got to help out. Help them out. Okay, well, that's cool. You know what I'm saying? But where's the logic in giving back and helping someone who has blown opportunity after opportunity? All right? If you have taken your money, for instance, and you out in the streets, you out in the clubs, you know what I'm saying? You're spending money on loose women and loose men. Yeah, because some chicks like to do that same thing. You know what I'm saying? Or you're out there, you're buying bottles of Patron and you're buying shots at the club for everybody. You balling, right? Now, while you doing that, let's say I'm working, you know what I'm saying, a little bit job. I got one job that's paying me decent wage, and I take a part-time job that maybe pays me like $9 to $10 an hour, right? So the whole time while you out in the club partying and doing your thing, you know what I'm saying, I'm working 2 jobs, putting myself through school, you know what I'm saying, and taking care of my family, keeping a roof over my family's head. And I also save my money, okay? Now, what in the hell makes you believe that you're entitled, okay, to come and eat off of me, eat off of my plate, and the plate of my children and my wife? What kind of, I mean, let's think about that. Does that make any sense to anybody? Okay, if you yourself have blown your damn opportunities, you know what I'm saying, you need to do exactly what the Lightning Credo is. You know what I'm saying, you go get yourself another job. You know what I'm saying, my old man, my father, used to always say, you know what, son, money comes and goes. You know, if I want something, I'm gonna go get a job and I work for it. I get it. You know what I'm saying? And that's what has to be done. Okay? That is where, you know what I'm saying, the so-called black really needs to draw the line and the distinction between them and the American Negro. Okay? Now, if you are a person who subscribes to, oh, well, you know, I gotta help this person out, you ain't helping them out. Okay? What you're doing is you're actually feeding in to Willie Lynch syndrome. Okay? You are taking off your own plate and compromising the integrity of your own family for the betterment of someone else who is literally going to blow it. Okay? And then they're going to come back and ask you for more. You know? And why is it that in almost every other society, hard work is valued? Okay? And it is something to be had. You know, you work hard, you earn things, you get them. You know what I'm saying? But why is it that in the so-called black community, those of us who work hard are expected to work our fingers to the bone and then turn around and give it to somebody else who hasn't done a damn thing? That makes zero sense. Okay? So I say this, you know, there's quite a few of us out here that already will shut them down. Myself, for instance, when somebody call me up and be like, hey, how you doing, man? I'm like, damn, I ain't heard from you in a long ass time. Yeah. What happened? You won't turn phone calls? What happened? Oh, yeah, you know, I've been struggling. You know, how's your wife? How's your kids? I'm like, yeah, everybody's chilling. Everybody's good. Cool. Well, you know, I'm struggling and I need help. I said, I got you. Oh, why are you? Yes, I got you. Listen, here's what you need to do. You need to get yourself a couple of jobs. You know what I'm saying? You need help writing a resume. I got you. You know what I'm saying? But as far as getting $1 out of me, that shit ain't never happening. Pardon my language. This shit ain't never happening. Okay? I'm not giving nobody a damn dime. Okay? I don't give stuff away. You know what I'm saying? Even with my children, they earn everything they have. They have a job. You know what I'm saying? If I had a dog, he would have a job. Okay? If I had a horse, he would have a job. And if he didn't do his damn job, he'd be sent to the glue factory. Okay? That is the Lightner way. Okay? Again, that is the Lightner way. Alright? And I'm sure there are other people, you know, whose families have also stuck with that. But I am sick and tired, you know, of this lollygagging, you know, of concepts, you know, and of doing the right thing. I'm tired of it. Okay? It needs to be, we need to, as a group, as a society, really put the brakes on these fools. Okay? Because like I said, it's akin to this, right? Think about it this way. You're in a ship. Okay? Now, you're already a person of color, so the waves are already crashing over the bow of the ship on you. Right? Now, you think of the person, they'll call them the American Negro. Let's say they're your brother, so they're your first mate. Okay? See, so the equivalent, what he's doing, when you're facing the rest of the world and the things that already come along with it, and you got that ship, you know what I'm saying, and it's coming crashing over the boat, that's the equivalent of your first mate going below deck and blowing a hole in your hull. So now you're taking on water behind and on the front. Okay? He's got the keys to the lifeboat. Okay? So what do you think is going to happen? Right? You're finished. Okay? So what we need to do is cut these people out, man. You cut them down. Listen, any person that you cut loose is not worth having in the first place. You dig? Any person that you cut loose ain't worth having in the first place. If they're not contributing to your well-being, if they're not working hard, striving to get somewhere, and if every time you see them they got their hand out and they talking about how many damn 40s they sipping on, what kind of bottles of Patron, you know what I'm saying, how they balling, this, nah, you cut them loose. Okay? If they ain't got a job, if they ain't working hard, if they're not productive, cut them loose. Okay? It's not a matter of blood, you know, that should be a bonus. Okay? There were times where, you know, when you were related to somebody, you had to earn your respect. You know what I'm saying? Your place in the world wasn't given simply because you're related to someone. Okay? You had to work and prove yourself. You know? And that is that, you know, you can look through history and see that. You know? You may have a king who's got 4 sons. You know what I'm saying? Each one of the sons had to prove themselves to be a prince. Okay? If they did not prove themselves, they were kicked and cut loose. They were downgraded and slid to the side, banished to some part of the kingdom, you know, out in the nether regions. Okay? We need to get back to that in this so-called black community. Okay? Because what's happening is that, you know, it makes our young people expendable. Okay? Let me show you how. Now let's say you got an individual who's partaking in this stuff and you constantly giving them leakage. You know, person comes into your house, you know, you invite them into your home, you know what I'm saying, they strung out on drugs, they, you know, steal your car, you know what I'm saying, and just leave your home, steal everything they can get their hands on. You know, why would you invite that person back into your home? Does it make any sense? No. If the person was a stranger off the street who did that, you would have their damn head. Okay? So why would you treat a person who happens to have the same amount of blood running through their veins as you any different than that? Or you think you're getting some kind of a bonus for that? What do you think? What are you teaching your children? Okay? It's a bad look. You cut them loose. Okay? Because that's the only way the so-called black community is going to shake off the ills of the American Negro. Okay? We need to look at things objectively and be focused. Right? If you don't have positive people in your circle and around you, do a double check. Look around. If everybody in your circle has got their hand out, you know what I'm saying? Or and the only time they call you is when they think you got something, get rid of them. You don't need them. Okay? That's the bottom line. You know, I'm no different. You know, a lot of people, you know, they know me. I cut people loose. I cut them. Gone. Get you out of here. You know? And if you don't call me, you know, if I don't hear from you and your so-called family and I ain't heard from you in months, you're gone. You know what I'm saying? And I teach my children the same thing. You know? They need to have productive people around them. You help yourself first. You never, ever, ever give a dollar. Not a dime, not a penny, nothing. Not even a Canadian penny. You don't give nobody nothing. Give? No. Okay? Within your household, there is a structure that is maintained. You know, if you go to work, you know what I'm saying, and ask your boss to give you $750, what do you think your boss is going to say? Would you walk up to a stranger on the street and be like, hey, let me get $750? They look at you and like, yo, you better get the hell out of my face. That's what you better do. So why would you think that that type of behavior would be acceptable? Okay? So now obviously, you know, I'm not going to be able to reach everybody. But if I can reach one of you out of 1,000, You know what I'm saying? Young black man or young black woman or so-called black man or black woman. Hey, my job is done. Okay? You need to build yourself for the future. You need to instill these values when they're young. It's one thing to talk about how you don't tolerate this and you don't tolerate that, you know, and you don't, you know, you can't have crooked, thieving people around you. It's one thing to talk about it, but it's another thing to actually put it into action, okay? Because when your children see that, okay, they're going to respect you. When your wife sees that, she's going to respect you, okay? The other family members that you keep around you, they are going to feel valued, okay, because they fully understand what their place is and where exactly is they fit within your cipher, okay? I can tell you hands down that all the people that I have in my circle, you know, are very good people, okay? They do the same thing. We got somebody who's negative, friend, foe, family member, you're gone, you're out of there. We get rid of them, okay? So in closing, you know, so I just want to point out, you know, it's time, okay? And it's like I said, it's one of those things where it's a touchy subject, and a lot of people may talk about it behind closed doors, you know, but you know, it's got to be done. You know, enough is enough, you know. So it's the bottom line is that you got to stop blaming, you know, so-called whites for the problems within the so-called black community. Let's call it what it is, okay? When the American Negro's behavior is contradictory to what you're trying to accomplish, all right, you need to handle that, okay? It's just like when you go into a battle, right? If you have, you know, if behind you have a fight between the guys in your unit, how in the hell are you going to handle the forces on the front line? Okay, what do? The first thing you do is you turn and you address your people. Okay, you straighten that crap out first. You need to do the same thing within the black community. Okay, and Mr. and Miss American Negro, like I said before, your days are numbered. You know, there are more and more of us out here, okay, that are working hard and striving. We see you, okay, and we're not going to put up with it. All right, now you have two choices. You know, like I said, American Negro syndrome, there is a cure for it, okay? It's called education, you know? If you take the time out to educate yourself, you know, and one of the best therapies for that is to get yourself a good job, you know what I'm saying? And if you can't get one good job, you know what I'm saying, you do like some of my cousins who are lighteners have done, you get yourself 2 or 3 jobs, okay? That's what you do. That's the cure for American Negro syndrome, okay? But the bottom line is, we've had it with y'all. You know, we have had it with y'all. You embarrass us, you know, you embarrass yourselves, you know. We are now in a situation where so-called blacks in America, we have to answer for things that these American Negroes are doing, okay? It's not right. It's not right, you know. And for those, you know, so-called whites, you know, who chimed in, and you know exactly where we're coming from. You whisper about these things in your homes. You know, you may say, you know what, they're not like the rest of them. You know, you already know what time it is. You know what I'm saying? So what you need to do, in your mind, you need to start understanding the construct and the concept that all blacks are not the same, or so-called blacks are not the same. We are just like you. Okay, you have so-called whites that are in particular classes and groups, and you have so-called whites that are scumbags and do bad things, and you have so-called blacks, or the American Negro, that does bad things. We, just like you, don't want these people. We don't claim them, okay? They need to be extricated from our society. They need to be extricated from your mind and from what your concept and construct is of a so-called black. All right. So let's get some work done. All right. Until next time, you know. Once again, I'm Diamond G, and thank you for all your support. And we're gonna get right back at it. Be blessed.